Brandon and the Todd Family YouTube video. Wherever you are, whatever you may be doing, thank you so much for making Ref Brandon and the Todd Family part of your day. We always greatly appreciate it. Sorry to come on here so late, but hopefully, since it's a Friday, people will still be able to stay up late and tune in. If you jump on here live, feel free to leave a comment in the comment section down below. Make sure while you're here, you give the video a like and a thumbs up. If you have not yet subscribed, please do so. It helps the channel out tremendously, and it's 100% free, and you can't beat that. But I want to come on here and talk about a lot of the bowl games, not all the bowl games, but I know during college football season, I come on here every Sunday and talk about a lot of the good, close games from Saturday. I didn't want to do a lot of different videos about the bowl games, so I tried to wait until all of them are in, except for the couple we had today, and then there's one tomorrow. But now it's the bottom of the barrel bowl games that I don't think anybody really cares about. Hey there, Marcus. Glad to have you here. I am fantastic. As always, no such thing as a bad day, just bad moments. But we ourselves let bad moments create bad days. Never a bad day in my life. But for the most part, all the games I'm going to talk about are the games that were one-score games. There's only a couple that I'm going to mention that weren't, closed down to the wire games. And then when I talk about them, you'll know what games they are. But there was a lot of close bowl games for all these people to say that these bowl games don't matter. And if you watch these bowl games, you can't tell these coaches and these players the games don't matter, because you don't have a lot of overtime games and coaches are going for two to win the game if the game doesn't matter. Hey there, Austin. Glad to have you here. And I know that I have not watched SmackDown yet, but I did see that Tiffany Stratton cashed in her Money in the Bank and won the women's title on SmackDown tonight from Nia Jax. So, Austin, if you're a fan of Tiffany Stratton, I guess that made your night. But one of the bowl games that was a blowout that I'm going to mention was Jackson State and South Carolina State. They played in the very first bowl game called the Celebration Bowl. And I want to bring that up because those two schools are HBCU schools. And in case you're not sure what that is a historical black college and university. And those two black colleges had the best season this year for HBCU programs. So I only bring that game up because those two teams won't get talked about a whole lot, but not much of a game. Jackson State dominated the Bulldogs from Orangeburg, South Carolina. The Frisco Bowl, Memphis defeated West Virginia 42-37. I think I saw that Memphis had 10 or more wins for 2 straight years for, I believe, the first time in program history. In the Art of Sport LA Bowl, UNLV defeated California 24-13. And by the way, before I continue, let me say that these are just regular bowl games. I'm not talking about the playoff games because I did a video yesterday talking about the playoff games. These are just the regular bowl games. But I do have some more thoughts on college football and the playoff games after I give the scores in these other games. But in the New Orleans Bowl, Sam Houston State defeated Georgia Southern 31-26. And Austin, I do talk about wrestling on here. I actually went and refereed a show tonight that was a last-minute thing, but I went and refereed a show tonight, and that's why I'm on here so late. I've got another show tomorrow afternoon, but I do talk about wrestling a lot. Earlier in the week, I think it was Monday or Tuesday, I talked about AEW's pay-per-view from last week. I just don't talk about wrestling every single day, but I do talk about it at least 3-4 times a month. Ohio defeated Jacksonville State 30-27 in the Cure Bowl. And, of course, Jacksonville State had to find a new head coach since Rich Rodriguez went back to West Virginia. Northern Illinois in the famous Idaho Potato Bowl defeated Fresno State by the score of 28-20. I think Northern Illinois was supposed to be really, really good, or at least everybody thought that after they beat Notre Dame, but Notre Dame ended up being really good, and the Huskies, not so much. It was just one of those fluky games where they showed up, played hard, and Notre Dame showed up and played like a hot pile of stinking garbage. I'm not sure when NXT's next pay per view is, Austin. I'll have to look here in the next couple days and let you know because off the top of my head, I'm really not sure. Hey there, Cassie. Glad to have you here. Happy New Year to you as well. South Florida defeated San Jose State in the Hawaii Bowl by the score of 41-39. I think I saw earlier today that about 3/4 of the bowl games so far, not counting the playoff games, which have pretty much all been blowouts, but the actual bowl games, about 2/3 of them have been really, really, really good games. There's been very few blowouts this year, and that's why I'm mentioning so many of these bowl games because people say these bowl games don't matter and they're crap and they're useless, but you don't have a lot of close games if the games don't matter. Main event is January 25th. You're right, it is. And January 25th, there's also a NWA superstar named Tom Latimer that's going to be doing a wrestling show here locally that I believe some of my family is going to be at that night. In 6 overtimes in the Game Above Sports Bowl, Toledo defeated Pittsburgh 48-46. In the Rate Bowl, Kansas State defeated Rutgers 44-41. You have a happy 2025 as well, Cassie. In the 68 Ventures Bowl, Arkansas State defeated Bowling Green 38-31. Austin, tonight I reffed at a place called SCA, and I believe watching that Arkansas State Bowling Green game, I believe I heard them say that Butch Jones had signed a 5-year contract that runs through 2029. And that's good for him. I believe Butch Jones could have a very, very, very successful career as long as he stays at Arkansas State or a program similar to them. As long as he coaches at a group of 5 school, I think he can be a very good head coach. If he ever again tries to leave and go to a high-profile FBS job, I believe he'll fail. Again, his coaching style is more suited for the FCS level or group of 5, not a Power 4 program. Syracuse in the Holiday Bowl defeated Washington State 52-35. And then the Armed Forces Bowl, Navy defeated Oklahoma 21-20. In the Birmingham Bowl, Vanderbilt defeated Georgia Tech 35-27. And I'm almost positive I saw a stat that said this was Vanderbilt's first winning season since James Franklin was their coach. And they've had a couple of seasons where they finished 6-6, but then lost their bowl game, so they finished 6-7. But this year, since they won their bowl game, they actually finished 7-6. Arkansas in the Liberty Bowl defeated Texas Tech 39-26. In the Las Vegas Bowl, USC defeated Texas A&M 35-31. In the Pop-Tarts Bowl, Iowa State defeated Miami 42-41. And that's the game that all the old school football fans pitched a fit about because Cam Ward played the first half, and then at halftime he said, I ain't playing anymore, and did not play the second half. And you could pretty much tell by the way Mario Cristobal talked that it was pretty much already assumed before the game that Cam Ward wasn't going to play in the second half. The sad part is the only reason he played in the first half is because he was going after the all-time record for most passing touchdowns in college. And he thought he got there, and they even announced he got there. He threw 156 career touchdown passes. The sad part is what they didn't tell you is it doesn't count because he spent his first couple of years at a junior college, and junior college touchdowns don't count at the FBS level, so he really threw nowhere close to 156 at the FBS level, but they announced that he had the all-time record, so somebody had to be keeping track of his junior college touchdowns. So to him, he has the most ever touchdowns, but it will not be in the record books because the touchdowns at junior college did not count. So he didn't play the second half, and Miami got beat 42-41. Same problem they had all year long. No defense at all. In the Pinstripe Bowl, Nebraska has their first winning season in quite a few years by defeating Boston College 20-15. In the Military Bowl, a game that ended with a fight, and I bet you the referees considered throwing the match out and not finishing, but they ended up finishing, and East Carolina beats NC State 26-21. Another bowl game that if the game don't matter and you don't care, why are you fighting? Missouri comes from behind to defeat Iowa in the Music City Bowl 27-24. Michigan defeats Alabama in their ReliaQuest Bowl 19-13. In the Citrus Bowl, Illinois defeats South Carolina 21-17. Louisville in the Sun Bowl defeats Washington 35-34. Washington went for two there at the end of the game and did not get it. Louisville's quarterback that game was Harrison Bailey, and I honestly thought he was no longer playing in college football until I saw over the weekend that he was starting, and I thought he still plays college football because I really didn't know that. LSU defeated Baylor 44-31, and that is all the bowl games that were at least somewhat competitive, except for the Celebration Bowl. As I mentioned, I brought that up because those two teams are HBCU programs that don't get a lot of talk. And yes, Austin, I have refereed before at SCA. I've actually refereed there quite a few times. But since I also work in radio doing high school football and basketball, I don't do it much anymore. But high school basketball was taken off for the holidays, so I was available to go tonight. And it was a last-minute decision. It wasn't something I planned ahead of time. But in case you missed my video yesterday or just want to hear it again, I had a couple of more thoughts on the Georgia game from yesterday. There was really two plays in the game that decided the game, honestly, because Georgia lost by 13. And with about, I think, 45 seconds to go in the first half, Notre Dame kicks a field goal to make it 6-3. And Georgia gets the ball and decides to be aggressive, and Stockton gets hit. He fumbles. Notre Dame recovers it on the Georgia 13-yard line, and then the first play on that drive, they throw a touchdown pass, make it 13-3, and then to kick off the second half, Notre Dame runs the kickoff back for a touchdown. And that was a 14-point swing right there, and then Georgia lost by 13. So really, those two plays made the difference. But as I mentioned yesterday, I really didn't understand and still don't understand why all the Georgia fans were so excited about Gunnar Stockton playing. Because Georgia's problem all year long was they couldn't catch. They led the nation this year in drop passes. That's not Carson Beck's fault. If you can't catch the ball when Carson Beck throws it, you can't catch the ball when Gunnar Stockton throws it. And sure enough, third quarter, Bell, who's actually been one of the guys that's been pretty sure-handed this year for Georgia, was wide open on about a 60-yard pass, and it hit him right in the hands, and he dropped it. And as I mentioned all year long, Georgia couldn't run the ball this year. Don't know why, because they've got enough talent at running back to be able to run the ball. And it's not like they didn't try. I mean, they run the ball 25, 30 times a game. It just didn't work. And they were at their 9th or 10th game this year before one of their running backs had a 100-yard game. And you kind of feel bad because I know Georgia fans hate Mike Bobo. I get that. Mike Bobo could go out there and score 900 points a game, and Georgia fans are still going to hate him. And I get that. But you've got to take off your red and black Georgia Bulldog glasses and think about it realistically. If your receivers can't catch and you can't run the ball, I really don't know what you can do as an offense. I did think Georgia would beat Notre Dame, but I wasn't sure about the next round because they've just been so inconsistent this year on offense. And every game this year, they've pretty much either been bad in the first quarter or been bad in the first half. And then second half, they make adjustments and come back and win the game. But when you get down to the nitty-gritty and get in the playoffs, it's hard to get behind by 2 or 3 scores and come back and win. And Georgia's offense, whether it's by design or just because they suck at starting good, either way, it doesn't matter. You can't get behind against good teams and come back and win. And it came back to hurt them against Notre Dame. And I didn't understand the whole thing about Kirby Smart. Besides Kirby Smart, he is the college football version of Mike Krzyzewski. If you ever watch Duke play, they say that referees were intimidated by Mike Krzyzewski because he would stay in the officials' ears the entire game. It didn't matter what was going on. He was always complaining about something. And that's the way Kirby Smart is. It could be a 3-yard run up the middle, and Kirby Smart's on the sidelines complaining about something. The whole game, every play, he's whining about something. But the whole thing about special teams yesterday kind of baffled me because you've seen Kirby on the sidelines 4 or 5 times say, you can't do that, you can't do that. And I'm thinking, dude, you're making yourself look stupid. They're not the only team that does that. I've seen many teams put their special teams on the field and then take them off and put the offense on, and vice versa. So if you can't do that, then every school in America is breaking the rules. Of course you can do that. But everybody's saying that he got out-coached right there, and I disagree with that. I mean, if he has to call a timeout because he got fooled, he got out-coached. If his defense don't get set, he got out-coached. But he got the defense on the field, and they got set, and they just jumped off sides. That's on the players. That's not on the coach. You can't blame Kirby for that because he didn't tell the defensive guy, hey, go out there and jump. He did that on his own. So I don't think he got out-coached right there. I just think Marcus Freeman had a plan, and Georgia fell for it, whether it was the coaches or the players. But in my opinion, in that situation, it's the players because they were on the field and they were set and they just jumped. But if you follow the channel, you know that I mentioned before that I'm not a Shane Beamer fan because Shane Beamer to me is a deflector. Anytime something goes wrong and don't go his way, he tries to deflect blame somewhere else. Last year, they played Missouri in Columbia, Missouri, and South Carolina looked awful. I mean, they looked terrible. So the first thing Shane Beamer does after the game is go in for his post-game press conference and sit down, and he immediately starts talking about how bad the facilities are there in Columbia, Missouri. And maybe they are bad. I'm not saying they're not. I ain't never been there. But when you bring up stuff like that after you lose, you're deflecting blame, trying to talk about the facilities there instead of getting questions about how bad your team played. And yes, Austin, I do like golf. And he did the same thing in their bowl game. All we heard about for the last month is South Carolina should have been in the playoffs. South Carolina got cheated, which, by the way, that's a bunch of hogwash. That's not so, but most of the media was saying they got cheated, they got shafted, they should have been in. And all we heard was how good they were. And then they go out there and play Illinois and look like dog doo. So what's Beamer do? He wants to fight. That way, you're deflecting blame off your team's performance and putting all the focus on yourself. So Shane Beamer is a world famous deflector. And I mentioned this yesterday, but Jalen Milroe entered the NFL draft. And I'm sure for Bama fans, they're happy about that because the longer he stayed there, the worse he got. And their bowl game, I believe it was Tuesday when they played, that first quarter, he couldn't have played worse. He looked absolutely awful. And that's what cost Bama the game because in the first quarter, he had 3 turnovers. And, of course, Michigan doesn't have much of an offense, so the game would have been a blowout. But Milroe played absolutely awful. And then Notre Dame, I want to mention this because it's never been done before, but Notre Dame this year broke a record for the most months beating a ranked team. Because we know this year college football started in August. Notre Dame beat a ranked team in 6 different months. First time that's ever happened. In August, they beat Texas A&M. In September, they beat Louisville. In October, they beat Navy. In November, they beat Army. In December, they beat Indiana. And, of course, in January, they beat Georgia. I think it had been done 2 or 3 times previously where a team had beaten a ranked team in 5 months, but never in 6 months. And I mentioned this on the channel a couple times before the playoffs started that, you know, a lot of years in the past, Notre Dame's been overhyped because they have the name recognition. But this year, they're not just ranked high because they're Notre Dame. They're actually really, really, really good. I don't think they'll win the national championship. I don't think their offense is quite good enough, but this ain't a Notre Dame team from the past that's only ranked high because of the name. They're actually really good this year, and I think Marcus Freeman is going to be a really good head coach for a really long time. As young as he is and as rich as that program is, if they want to keep him, they'll give him whatever amount of money he asks for or whatever amount of money they think he needs in order to stay. And yes, Austin, I shave my head about once every 6 or 7 weeks. It used to be 4 weeks. I kind of wait a little longer than that now, but I decided when I was 19 years old that having hair sucks. I hate having hair, so I started shaving my head about 20 years ago or so, and I still do it. That way I ain't got to buy a brush. I ain't got to buy a comb. I ain't got to buy gel. I ain't got to buy mousse. I ain't got to buy shampoo. I ain't got to buy diddly squat. So about once every 6 or 7 weeks, I shave my head. When I wake up and look in the mirror and it's sticking up, it's time to go. Any thoughts on any of this, please feel free to let me know. Let's go ahead and get our dad joke of the day in here. Did you know that when the female snake wants no more children, she gets a hysterectomy? And that does it for today's Ref Brandon and the Todd Family YouTube video. Until next time, it's Ref Brandon saying, just like in pro wrestling, life can be over by the count of 3. Tell your friends and family how much you love them. Bye.